Hello, welcome to this webinar dedicated to the competence certification module within the Data Visual project. Here is the summary of our webinar. We will have some short introduction about some key notions and definitions, competence versus knowledge, then address competence and good practices profile, and finally the certification approaches. To move it up front and so that you know whom you are listening at. I took this slide here. I'm Didier Blanc, president of the EFCOCERT Foundation in Switzerland. EFCOCERT stands for European Foundation for Competence Certification. We develop certification schemes, competence certification schemes in the framework of EU-funded projects, essentially Erasmus+. Competence versus knowledge. This is our summary for this topic. Starting with definitions. Knowledge is the outcome of what you get by learning. You can learn by attending a course, by observing, by formal, non-formal, informal learning, and the outcome of what you assimilate is the knowledge you get. Beyond that, the competence is the ability to apply this knowledge and also skills to achieve results, which is a meta dimension. We address both of them, both these dimensions in our competence approach, which we will discuss right now as well. If you look at the pyramid that you have here, which is the Miller's pyramid, which is used in the medical sector, at least, see that you start as novice at the I know level, or maybe I know how, I can explain something and so on. And until you get to the do, and I am able as expert, it may be a long journey. If you think about medical studies, medicine studies, heart surgery, you have notions here, but until you are able to perform heart surgery, maybe quite a long journey. It is not always that long, but just to illustrate. So this means competence is much broader than knowledge, and you cannot assess competence just by checking some acquired knowledge at the end of the course. You have to look for some demonstration of the abilities and the achieved results. The definitions given by the definition we put here for we had previously for competence is the definition from ISO. Here we have the definitions from the European Qualification Framework for Lifelong Learning. It is almost the same, a bit longer, but it is also about ability to use knowledge, skills, and so on in work study situations or personal development. Knowledge is the same we had. So, in other words, in short, knowledge is what you know. Competence is what you can do with what you know. Knowledge is important on the way, on the journey to competence, but is not enough. Here, the framework in which we operate within our projects. You have a common starting point of the top, which is the profile of competence and or good practices. Sometimes it's very similar. And then from there, you can go in two directions, which are complementary on or two legs or two pillars. On the left, you have the knowledge acquisition, which means out of the competence profile, you will derive and define what are the intended learning outcome and pedagogical objectives. And then according to that, you will develop some course material. And once the course material is used, at the end, you can test the acquired knowledge. the training. And this will end up in a I know, either badge or micro-credential or whatever. This can be automatically granted by the learning management system if it is a e-learning course, for instance. And you address, back to the pyramid, you address the I know, or maybe I know how. On the right, you go on the meta dimension of competence demonstration. You first, and for that, okay, we said that competence shall be observed on the job. How can you do that? You can go and observe, and you can go one full week with one person. You can imagine some exams with an expert or jury or whatever. And but this is complicated to organize. This is not very flexible. This has a certain cost for producing. So we thought about alternatives to that, and we thought, okay, who else than an examiner or an assessor or an expert or whatever can confirm that the competence has been demonstrated? Think about maybe, as an example, an adult trainer. Um, the trainees attending the course he delivers will be able to confirm, okay, in the plan area, I can confirm that the objectives were correct, that the format, the duration of the training is adapted, that the proportion between theory and practice is good. And in the do, he was a good animator, he was available for questions, things like that. When in the check that okay, there was we were invited to give a feedback. We can confirm that there were adaptations according to our critics, things like that. Okay, so trainees can be part of the recognition use cases. Um, you can also think about peers. You can think about the client paying the trainee. You can think about the sponsor or the institution mandate asking the trainer or the teacher to develop a training course and things like that. So all these related stakeholders, we call that the ecosystem or the recognition use cases. So we first define that. Who is in a situation to confirm that the competence has been demonstrated? Then we draft a competence questionnaire related to the profile on the top. Then the candidate who wants to have his competence demonstrated and recognized will activate. Okay, if we told we need 10 trainees, 2 peers, 1 client, whatever, okay, this will be activated. And once enough and sufficient corresponding demonstration and confirmation has been provided, this will end up to I am able badge, will be guaranteed by a certification body or maybe an algorithm one day. And this is then addressing the does, I do, I'm able, which is quite different. But both are complementary, and we try to both address both in any project in which we are involved. And this is the case for the data visualization project we are talking about. An example. Knowledge is a seed, contains all the potential you may think about, and competence is a tree. What did you do out of the seed? Just to make it short. Second topic, competence profile and good practices. Back to our framework, which remains the same. We keep the same explanations. We will just have some words more in detail about this common starting point up there. Where does this competence profile come from? Basically, typically, the project we are talking about, big data visualization, this is something that is new. It is something that is not regulated job profile. There is no diploma for that, no official course or whatever. So this is something you have to construct. What are the good practices, and at which level shall you set the bar? So different sources can be can be involved and applied for that. We have experts within the project, okay? Literature. You can find many things on the internet nowadays. You can have internal experts, and you can have participants to the pilot. We will, and the webinars are going to be piloted, and okay, out of that we will have a lot of inputs with whether the competence that have been defined are realistic, whether they are sufficient, whether we missed something or not. So the process is iterative. Also, pilot is a typical thing illustrating the iterative approach. So you have loops and back loops, and this is also why the project we use the project duration for going through these loops, first within experts within the partners, and then by opening the floor to a broader audience. So we had an initial workshop, brainstorming, then elaboration of pedagogical objective learning outcomes, then comments by partners, external experts, and then involving the pilot. This is the process for going to a competence profile. The structure is, as far as possible, to have an alignment consistent with the learning outcomes, the training modules, and the competence profile, so that everybody can recognize where we are and have a almost structured approach. Coherent topics, 40 competencies max, which are easily verifiable. If we only list things that nobody can confirm and observe, it's lost. Grouped as appropriate in coherent sub badges or subtopics, because it might be sometimes that the competence is a collective one, and a team can all together have the full competence, but some are specialized, let's say in our case, on data collection, and others more IT tricky guys will be more specialized on drafting some pictures, figures, charts, whatever, and out of such team you have a collective competence. So this is also something which is also relevant in this profile. If you want to have some examples, you can go to the different projects in which we are or have been involved and have a look on the corresponding competence profiles that have been defined for very different topics and job profiles, from wine tasting to adult training to instructional design, public procurement of innovation, or our big data visualization that we are talking about in this project. Now, the competence certification. With our submenu here, we will go through these different topics. Again, we always have the same basic framework. We are now talking about how will we end up with the certifications down there. First, thinking about the left leg or pillar, knowledge. I know level. This is a simple one and classical, nothing new, basically, and nothing science rocket to explain in there. You attend a course, short or long, you acquire some knowledge, and you have a test on this knowledge, written or with MCQ, open questions essay, or oral, or whatever. If you meet the pass mark, which is set, you get an attestation, a certificate, a badge, which you can share on social networks, on a badge backpack, and things like that. Easy. And this is also totally in line with the new EU approach to micro-credentials. Badges are micro-credentials. Here you have the link to the EU framework for that, which has been launched in June 2022. And this framework promotes the use of micro-credentials for non-regulated professions. I know. Now I'm able, beyond I know. Why that? Why going beyond that? So I let you freeze the image and read that. If you want to have some lecture, this is, I confess, it was it was an interesting attempt. We asked ChatGPT exactly this question here. Why competence certification beyond knowledge attestation? This is what we got. Slightly arranged, but very slightly. And the topics are quite relevant. Ensuring quality, proving employability, professional development, enhanced consumer confidence, industry standards. Quite interesting. That okay. Really beyond just I know. The fact that, and also think about, you can have a competence demonstrated without having attended any course, any formal course. Huh? And finally, on the job market, this is what is relevant for the consumers, for the industry, for your professional development. It is what is relevant. So take a while, freeze the image, and read that. Now we come back to our ecosystem with the questions we already addressed a bit. Who can recognize and confirm your competence? So back to the related to the definitions, which is the results you are able to achieve by applying your knowledge and skill. Experts, examiners, it works, but this is not the only way for that. Any person in a situation to assess the result you deliver, clients, beneficiaries, peers, employers, can also contribute to that. And this is our concept, which is totally innovative. I think I never met any other competence certification developer who goes that far. For now, this is what we are developing and what we will use and relate on in this project. And this dramatically reduces the costs and enhances the accessibility, because in the time you do not need any synchron involvement. It can be at any day, it can be at any time, it can be in any language, it can be in an open period, so very flexible. An example of ecosystem. I gave you already the example of the adult trainer. Here we have the instructional designer, which is the trainer who develops a training course to be dematerialized and used as e-learning. E-learning pedagogy is quite different than face-to-face. You have to develop other kind of materials and approaches to involve the participant and the trainee. So this is a specific competence framework. And okay, we thought about together within the project experts and partners who can be involved. Trainees attending the course developed by the instructional designer, client or sponsor, client if it is an external client, sponsor if it is internal within a school or a vet school or whatever, peers, school referent or principals, if any, employer, others. And okay, this is for an initial or recertification. And okay, we decided in that case we need 10 trainees, 2 of those, 1, and so on. And also the huge advantage, we told, okay, this allows to recognize and to certify the competence you acquired through any means, uh, even without any learning. But also, this is your experience and backwards. In front of you, a competence it shall be maintained. And if you do not practice, you will lose it over the time. The approach, the ecosystem approach, also allows to have some continuous surveillance. And why not saying each year we need 2 or 5 trainees, continuously confirming, okay, the competence remains demonstrated, for instance, and one client, maybe. Okay, this is how it will work. Another examples, here we are in the digital wine tasting session, typically a post-COVID need that has been picked up and that ended up in a Erasmus Plus project, participant to digital wine tasting sessions that the candidate organizes, wine producers or suppliers whose wines are part of the tasting session, retailers, importers, employer, whatever. And again, initial and maintenance. Another example. And once you have the full card, so 10 participants, 2 suppliers, and so on, you will have sufficient evidence, and a certification body can deliver a certificate or a badge. This is the difference with the I know, where you just can release, or where it is enough to rely on a knowledge, an acquired knowledge check and a pass mark. So now here we have a picture of, once you have this, regarding the scorecard we have defined for recognition use cases, we have here a different type of badges that are available. You have the I know, which is associated to the left leg or pillar and checked by the knowledge test at the end of the course. And then regarding the I practice or I enable badges, you have here, we just decided to have bronze, silver, gold, which can be thought about. Bronze would be, in this case, the self-issued. You can self-assess and think reasonably and honestly, okay, I'm able to do that and that and that and that. Issued is if you involve the ecosystem, but without verification. And verified would be if you check by a certification body that the relevant numbers, the sufficient numbers of relevant people within the ecosystem has been involved. And endorsed would be if the badge or certification is recognized maybe by an authority, by a professional association, and so on. And this goes beyond the scope of the project. So basically, in this case, in this project, you will have the I know badge and at least 1 or 2 of the I am able as options. Okay, here, this is basically the end of this webinar. I just want to address you or to make you aware that if you want to deepen your knowledge and some notions about what we just discussed in this webinar. We developed in the framework of another project, which is the digital wine tasting. We developed, which is why the bottle and the glass here. We developed a micro-learning course, interactive, which may allow you to, in a half an hour or a bit more, to deepen your notions about that. This is it for now. This is just the partners of the project, which we already know. And thank you for your attention, and maybe see you throughout the certification process during the pilots. Welcome. Bye bye.